Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty RoundTable Radio Talk Show.
All right. Happy to have you along, my fellow Americans. Sam Bushman live on your radio. Hard-hitting news the networks refuse to use, no doubt, starts now. This, my fellow Americans, is the broadcast for August 8th in the year of our Lord 2025. This is our one of two, and the goal always to protect life, liberty, and property, to promote God, family, and country, to do so on your radio and the traditions of our founding fathers. Yes, we use the incredible checks and balances brilliantly put in place by the founding fathers as one of the peaceful, restorative solutions we have at our fingertips as we restore the republic using the supreme law of the land, the Constitution for the United States of America. As you know, we reject revolution unless it's a Jesus revolution. Then we're in because we follow the Prince of Peace. By the way, it is a freedom-loving, fantastic, faith-filled, we're taking America back, one heart, one mind, one issue at a time Friday. Wow. On the evening of August the 8th, 1974, ladies and gentlemen, President Richard Nixon addressed the nation from the Oval Office announcing his resignation. Wow. This unprecedented situation represented the first time a president literally resigned from office, a dramatic climax from the Watergate scandal. Thisdayofhistory.com with the details. Liz, in your folder is a file. It's called Nixon. Makes sense, right? Anyway, be ready to play that in just a second. Tell me when you have it. So this is really critical, folks, because it's a landmark reality in history that I want to talk to Dr. Scott Bradley about in seconds. Here's the clip, then we'll get to the good doctor.
I have never been a quitter. To leave office before my term is completed is abhorrent to every instinct in my body. But as president, I must put the interests of America first. America needs a full-time president and a full-time Congress, particularly at this time with problems we face at home and abroad. To continue to fight through the months ahead for my personal vindication would almost totally absorb the time and attention of both the President and the Congress in a period when our entire focus should be on the great issues of peace abroad and prosperity without inflation at home. Therefore, I shall resign the presidency effective at noon tomorrow. Vice President Ford will be sworn in as president at that hour in this office.
All right, Dr. Bradley, welcome to Liberty Roundtable Live. What an interesting day, huh?
Well, it is indeed, and it's very appropriate that you pick this one to start out on. I mean, we have a couple hours together today, but of course there's so many things to talk about that just over the top. But this was a watershed moment, a hinge point, if you will, in Americana. You know, I remember, for example, exactly where I was when I was informed that JFK had been shot, or exactly the moon landing stuff, or exactly this particular instance. I mean, I can envision it as though it were, enacting in my mind right now, and those particular things. That's how indelibly, it's kind of recalled by me. So, yeah, this was an historic moment that Nixon pulled this off. I find it interesting, the stunts that brought about this thing. I mean, they were clumsy, old-fish almost, things that happened with some of the people that are supposed to be highly trained, highly qualified spooks. Boy,
yeah,
they
it's
bumbled
almost
their
as
way.
if they wanted it to happen, huh?
It could be, but you know what? You compare what's happened. I mean, you look at what, and I don't want to give Trump a pass on this at all. I mean, at all. But you look at the buffoonery that happened with Comey and the FBI and the Carter Page stuff and the Russia and the Steele dossier and the wiretapping at Trump Towers versus Watergate. Oh my goodness! I mean, the parallels are almost uncanny, but they're they're amped up on steroids with what was going on with, the Democratic National Committee and the weaponized Justice Department, so-called. I mean, it's just appalling to me that, Nixon really blew it. There's no question about that. And it was the follow-on with that was also things we could talk about with the pardon and all this kind of stuff.
I want to talk about really the sea change. They say that it's bad enough of what was done in Watergate, but the cover-up is what took him down. And in today's society, it almost seems like the cover-up highlights two classes of people in America. Those who are above the law and the rest of us. Rather than taking someone down, the cover-up isn't the enemy anymore. The cover-up has been mastered by people who maybe even be better than the President Trump at the art of the deal. I mean, Bill Clinton engineered this deal to where literally women were saying he raped me, and they had details and evidence, and they were flat out ignored, called bimbo eruptions, and he rose above it. Now the Epstein files can't even get Bill Clinton. And so Bill Clinton kind of patented the, you'll never be able to take me down, I'm too powerful now. And we've seen a sea change in America since Nixon, right?
Absolutely. The Teflon Dan or Don or whatever you want to call them that were there that just kind of, there's nothing can stick to them. I mean, right now they got some, they say they're going to try and depose some people that have been pretty high up in government. I mean, basically it's a who's who in all the Democratic convention committee, I mean, these guys are, but Trump gets a pass on it, and you say, wait a minute, he knew Epstein for 15 years. And they say that, Ghislaine Maxwell, said, no, Trump's all, squeaky clean on this thing. And you have to say, well, is somebody looking for a sweetheart deal to get kind of passed out of a 20-year sentence for child molesting? I don't know, but it remains to be seen if any of these depositions will have anything but just more noise on the radar.
And I wish we would have action, but I don't see it. I mean, they're covering the Jeffrey Epstein scandal. Pam Bondi was the one. There's accusations that they had a special deal that, he worked for foreign intelligence or he worked for the United States CIA or whatever, and that he got a special deal because of it, and there was no prosecution. And, we know that they dealt with him in kid gloves. Jeffrey Epstein literally went to jail supposedly for, child molestation or whatever you want to call it. At the same time, hey, this guy basically got kid glove treatment. He was able to do work release from jail and everything else back in the day. And then all these big hobnob leaders hung out with him nevertheless. After that fact, you got all kinds of weird. Now Trump buries it after promising to bring it forward. Pam Bondi, was in Florida at the time that this all happened to Epstein in Florida and everything. And then you go, well, okay, forget the Jeffrey Epstein case. What about the Barack Obama, I don't know what you call it, attack on President Trump? And now we've verified that, Hillary Clinton ordered the dossier. Trump carried it forward, Obama carried it forward against Trump, spied on Trump, did all these, things. They say there was no election fraud, but now we find out more and more and more evidence that there was election manipulation. All I'm telling you is, so people should be going down, people should be arrested, but no one's getting arrested. Sheriff? No, or doctor? Nobody. I think of arrested is the problem. Right?
We need a new sheriff in town. Probably that's the problem.
Well, they say there is one with Kash Patel, and there is one with Pam Bondi, and there is one with Donald Trump. That that's kind of the phrase, but I just don't see it. I don't see any real serious repercussions. Even the deep state, and Tulsi Gabbard literally says, "Hey, man, I had to fight the deep state all the way to even release what I did."
Yeah, it's really a fiasco, and the problem is that. Back in the Nixon day, there was enough bipartisanship across the board, I think. I remember the days where, there was a lot of stupid things that got enacted. There's no question about that over the years with all of the socialistic welfare state stuff that Kennedy and LBJ were bringing forth and then the Nixon stuff. But there were people in the House and the Senate on both sides of the aisle, if you will, that seem to think, wait, no, stand by one. This is America we're talking about. This is our nation. We can't let these things happen. But nowadays, the nation, half the nation hates the other half. Half thinks that they can do no wrong, but the other half can do no right, and vice versa. And it's absolutely absurd that we have let the partisanship stuff exceed everything, oaths of office and principles-based decisions, and it's just whose side are you on? And if you're not loyal to Trump, you're out in the cold, and vice versa to I don't know who their leader is now, All
right, well, let's go ahead and skip the break here. So to me, the issue with this is, it used to be partisan politics was like, hey, we disagree on, item A. It's something you could say is insignificant, but it's kind of like two ways to skin a cat. Which is the better way? Let's do it my way or your way. It's the Democrat, Republican infighting. Now, though, partisan politics has got all the way to the core where they'll give up nothing. I don't care if we destroy the country and make it communist, as long as the Republicans don't or the Democrats don't, whatever. We've literally even seen politicians in modern day turn against people in their own party for this socialistic communist agenda. It's very strange to see. In other words, hey, if Sam Bushman were to become president, all the Republicans that are neocons, deep staters, whatever you want to say, hey, they'd rather see, Gorbachev become president, right? I mean, people have been deceived and indoctrinated and propagandized so much so to where they're really willing to go to that level and die on their sword. We're to that point, Doctor.
Well, really tragically, it's not just sadly. This is a tragic travesty beyond measure that we have forgotten. I mean, oaths. You talk about we're a oath-breaking people. We are. We break every oath we ever take. Fidelity to my spouse. Whoever thought of that? Come on. I mean, you look at Trump. If a wife can't trust her husband, can I trust him? I mean, these are really deep thoughts that shouldn't take more than a nanosecond to cross our mind and say, well, heck no. I mean, if your spouse can't trust you, who can? And I think we're in that mode today. And people say, oh, he's doing so much work. And you hate to even bring up the 1920s and 30s and everything because that was a long time ago and everything like that. But the fact of the matter is everybody was pretty happy that the trains were running on time, and some European countries that had stepped into the fascist mode. And it's like, well, look at all the other happily ever after stuff that was just waiting in the wings to happen to us. But you know what? We're glad that the trains are running on time. Whatever.
Yeah.
I mean,
and
come
that's
on.
The problem. We don't understand the moral case, if you will, and that's part of the problem. So now there's a big battle now. Who's going to be the presidential 2028 Republican nominee? Some say it'll be Donald Trump Jr., and he's planning an upset. Others say no, it'll be J.D. Vance. He's already got the nod from Donald Trump. Now there's a new reality. Is secretly plotting a, quote, sensational run for president in 2028. He has already been kind of, knifing his rival, attacking his rival, if you will, saying, well, I created him. In other words, Steve Bannon is saying, I created J.D. Vance. A little over the top, but there you have it. Alina Shirazi, UK, has the story. And it's interesting because Steve Bannon thinks he's going to take the cake. Now, here's an interesting tidbit. At the CPAC conference a couple of months ago, attendees floated J.D. Vance at the top of the ticket, and Bannon voted in second place. I guess 61% for J.D. Vance and 12% for Steve Bannon, so he didn't really have a chance. Governor Ron DeSantis and Marco Rubio took the third and fourth spot, according to the Daily Mail. And this is a very interesting thing because Steve Bannon, you got another felon, you've got a guy with scandal all over the place. Somehow, and I don't really understand, somehow this guy's got tremendous power. He's an insider's insider. But as far as I understand, he doesn't really have a government position right now. It's that the mainstream media is in bed with the deep state, is in bed with, and I know you would say, well, Steve Bannon and the deep state, Sam, they're opposite about that. This idea that, you're Steve Bannon and you say, I made J.D. Vance. You're Steve Bannon and you go to jail for things and now you're a felon or whatever. And, you've got all these problems, but yet, hey, I've got enough mojo to, shove out J.D. Vance. And, you kind of read books and things about history and you got the second in command or whatever, oftentimes does first in command so that second in command becomes first in command. I mean, there's a lot of variations on that reality, but you kind of start to go, where does Steve Bannon's power come from? How would he even be considered for this role? And then the idea that he's mocking J.D. Vance, saying, I made you, and very strange stuff indeed, Doctor.
Well, you know me, I always look back to go forward, and people say, what do you come up with these inane things? And I guess the first thing that comes to my mind about this thing, and believe me, I'm not sure that anybody's really qualified to be in the job now, but at least the ones that have got their name on the table. But I go back to the early 1920s. Whoa, no. Anyway, back during the Weimar Republic, and Mussolini had made his march on Rome, and Hitler used that as his, what shall we say, his encouragement,
calling card,
to do a beer hall push, in Munich, where it's a beer hall kind of thing where they began in bars basically, and in November they were going to try and overthrow the Weimar Republic kind of thing, and it's kind of like these ruffians, these thugs, these unwashed, kind of what shall we say, rabble were taking the bull by the horns, and they're going to take the government over. And I Steve Bannon is really kind of rough around the edges and scruffy in appearance, as well as his logic, reason, and everything else that he goes about stirring the pot. And I don't know. I can't explain where all of this power comes from, but honestly, there are a lot of people, and honestly, there are people in the past, people I've known for years and years, that I thought were relatively normal and relatively intelligent and relatively endowed with reason and logic and so on, that are just absolutely baffling me with some of their enthusiasm for things that should never be.
And what's interesting to me is it seems like they jettison all historical precedent, all moral compass, all constitutional rule of law, or moral law, whatever you want to call it, common law, whatever term, it's
natural law, God's law.
Yeah, absolutely. And they jettison all that for what they believe to be, you know what, we'll get back to that soon, Sam, but there's this greater cause here. And that's where we always stumble, where we always go off the rail. One little switch in the train tracks and boom, you're gone so far south that it's not even funny. It seems like we're doing that at every turn these days.
It is, and honestly, after the debacle of the 2020 election, many people were hoping, indeed praying for, an implementation of a martial law thing. Some think it really happened, and we're currently under martial law, which is, there is no constitutional authorization for any form of martial law. And we could get into that and pretty deep in the weeds on this thing, but they're telling me on a regular basis that opposition to the Trump regime is being carried out with hangings and gitmo on people on the other side. And you say, well, wait a minute. First of all, what evidence do you have? And they've got actors playing the role out of them. They think that there's people that are standing in. And I say, well, if all the bad guys are dying, how come we got bad things happening everywhere? Well, they're just kind of letting it play out right now so people can have a time to wake up. They got an illogical explanation for anything and everything that's happening, but people are saying, oh, we're happy that martial law is on, or could be on, or is on, whatever. And I'm saying, no.
They're insane.
Well, that's the problem. They're delusional at the very least. 2 Thessalonians talks about that. But that's the problem. I see people have become literally delusional in thinking that martial law is better than any kind of government we could have under the U.S. government now.
And I agree that America's got problems, but these people want to believe that somehow it's so bad that being in the midst of a hardcore war would be better. Okay, it's kind of like this idea that, we need to have peace through war. That's how we're going to get peace, Sam, is we're going to go to war. Peace is on the other end of that discussion. And I don't see it. And I look at Steve Bannon and I say, who is Steve Bannon not in a fight with?
Yeah.
Steve Bannon's behind the scenes in a fight with J.D. Vance. Steve Bannon's in a fight with, Elon Musk. Steve Bannon, decided that he couldn't appear in the same room with Sam Bushman because Sam's somehow a bad guy. I look at this and just go, what is happening? But this guy manages to cling to power and cling to fame and cling to, there's big money behind him. There's all these different, and I look at it and go, how is this the case in America today?
Well, Sam, I think this is related, and maybe it might be a little bit obtuse to think this right off the bat. But I think back in 1962, when the Cuban Missile Crisis was going on, and we had some very sobering moments, and I remember well John Kennedy, on my black and white TV, talking the story about what was at stake, and people were very sober minded about it on both sides of the aisle and everything, and here we have Trump deploying nukes against Russia in 2 subs, and it's over a mean tweet that a Russian leader sent out. It's like tweets are causing nations to go to the brink of war, and people are cheering it on, and people are enthusiastic, and people are, come on, bring it on, baby. And I think, you know what? There was people, at least in 1962, that thought about how, that could bring about a reversal of civilization back to the days that there was no civilization. And it won't be like a Garden of Eden kind of thing either. It's going to be ash and gray rubble like it is in, think about Gaza right now. But that's the thing, is people are, we have the Lindsey Grahams of the world that never saw a scrape they didn't want to get some Marines killed in, and this kind of thing, deploying nuke submarines because somebody tweeted a mean tweet. Think about this for a second. And Trump has this, he can deploy these subs, and if you knew what these Trident-type missiles were with their multiple warheads and the size of them, think of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and they were little tiny baby bombs in comparison. These things are 100 times more powerful than those.
Well, and then think about authority and say, by what authority do we even proceed?
Well, that's right. And the thing is that people just seem to, they have lost their sanity, and delusion has settled in. And I think of 2 Thessalonians all the time, because the strong delusions have descended upon people.
There's no question.
Whether
you
it's
look at
Gaza
the Israel
or
battle, and now Israel's going to move forward and take Gaza City or whatever else. And who's the peace-loving individual? I don't think any of them are really following the Prince of Peace. I don't think any of them really, truly want a ceasefire, as far as I can tell, Doctor.
Well, and I'll use another little simple analogy. 2 of them. If you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. If you think you got a hammer on, you give a 4-year-old a hammer, you're going to find things all over your house that 4-year-old thinks needs to be pounded on. And Trump has, when we come back, I can talk a little bit about how precipitously things can happen when you have your finger on the red button, so to speak.
Give us the quick second analogy, and then we'll go to break and then break it down. How's that?
Well, it takes a little longer to explain why a root canal is related to this. And I think
that's
it's time
the
for a
teaser
break.
that I want, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking about hammers and root canals on your radio. We're really talking about war and peace. We're really talking about the moral fortitude of the nation. We're really talking about the supreme law of the land, and we should have obedience there too, but we seem to be thumbing our nose. We should be having heroes as our leaders, but it seems to me that we have a bunch of deep state actors on the stage everywhere we turn. Is there hope? Absolutely. But it's in Christ, not government, ladies and gentlemen.
How would you like to help this program reach more people and earn silver at the same time? Call or text 801-669-2211 for complete details.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. I'm Rich Thomason. Israel's military gets the go-ahead to move into Gaza City. The Israeli Security Cabinet approved the action following a lengthy debate at an overnight meeting convened by Prime Minister Netanyahu. In Jerusalem, the BBC's Hugo Beshega.
There has been a statement by the Prime Minister's office saying that the military will take control of Gaza City. And also there was the approval of these 5 principles for the end of the war, which include the release of the hostages, also the defeat of Hamas, but also the creation of an alternative civilian government that is not Hamas or the Palestinian Authority. And it seems that this is an indication of what the Prime Minister might be planning for Gaza once the war is over.
It's deadline day for Russia. President Trump threatening Moscow with punishing new sanctions if it does not agree to a Ukraine ceasefire. A Miami federal judge has ordered a 2-week halt in ongoing construction work at Florida's Alligator Alcatraz Migrant Detention Center.
The facility was quickly built 2 months ago at a lightly used single runway training airport and can hold up to 3,000 detainees in temporary tent structures. The facility was continuing to be built out, but Thursday's order by U.S. District Judge Kathleen Williams temporarily bars any new filling, paving, or infrastructure. The order doesn't include any restrictions on law enforcement or immigration enforcement activity at the center. Williams issued the temporary restraining order during a hearing and then followed up with a written order later Thursday. Bernie Bennett reporting.
In northeast Pennsylvania, a gunman is dead, shot by police after he shot a neighbor to death and then ambushed state troopers who responded to the scene. 2 troopers were wounded. They're in stable condition and are expected to survive. It happened near Thompson, Pennsylvania. It's about 30 miles north of Scranton. On Wall Street, the Dow is up 201 points. NASDAQ ahead 129. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher. You work hard, you build wisely, your home has become one of your greatest assets. If you're staying put this summer, this might be the perfect time to put that equity to work. Whether it's funding a second home, helping your kids get their start, or simply creating more margin in your financial life, Mike and Brian at Fellowship Home Loans are the only ones I trust to guide you through it. They've done loans for my family. They tailor every loan to fit your goals. Fellowship is a direct lender and operates with your best interest in mind. If you're looking to access your equity through a refi or exploring a HELOC for some cash this summer for a second property or those updates you've been putting off, start with people you trust. People I trust. Go to fellowshiphomeloans.com/Mike G. fellowshiphomeloans.com/Mike G. or call 800-510-MIKE. 800-510-6453. Fellowship Home Loans. Mortgage lending by the book.
Nationwide Mortgage Bankers, DBA Fellowship Home Loans, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS number 819382.
As you are aware, America is divided over every fault line possible. This is intentionally fostered by those who do not love God, family, or country. We believe a peaceful future as a free people absolutely depends on civility. Clarion Call for Civility is looking for funding and volunteers at every level to make our hopes and efforts a reality. Please donate, sign our pledge, and help us in our sacred cause. Please visit callforcivility.com for more details. Callforcivility.com.
Bypass the mainstream narrative with Liberty News Radio at libertynewsradio.com. Engage with charismatic hosts live or on demand. We cover the crucial news focused on God, family, and country. News that other networks simply refuse to use. Think of LNR's hard-hitting news and podcasts at your fingertips, anytime, anywhere. Join us at libertynewsradio.com. Empower your day with the truth, because the truth will set you free. libertynewsradio.com.
The Foundation for Moral Law is a nonprofit legal foundation committed to protecting our unalienable right to publicly acknowledge God. The Foundation for Moral Law exists to restore the knowledge of God in law and government and to acknowledge and defend the truth that man is endowed with rights not by our fellow man, but by God. The Foundation maintains a twofold focus. First, litigation within state and federal courts. Second, education. Conducting seminars to teach the necessity and importance of acknowledging God in law and government. How can you help? Please make a tax-deductible contribution, allowing Foundation attorneys to continue the fight. You may also purchase various Foundation products as well at morallaw.org. Located in Montgomery, Alabama, the Foundation for Moral Law is a nonprofit, tax-exempt 501c3 founded by Judge Roy Moore. Please partner with us to achieve this important mission. morallaw.org.
Live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty RoundTable Radio Talk Show.
Let's see now. Where were we before that rude break that happens at the bottom and the top of the hour all the time? We're talking about hammers and nails and root canals? How the heck? And then I'll talk for just briefly about another life I had in the nuclear warfare scenario. Anyway, if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Give a 4-year-old a hammer and you're going to find out everything looks like a nail. And that's what a lot of people that have got their finger on the button might be, or military kinds of mentalities. The other day I had a toothache and my dentist referred me to a guy that only does root canals. And I think it's very questionable whether one's necessary or not. But anyway, I went to him, and lo and behold, he said, I need a root canal. And he did admit, he says, well, that's all I do, so these things all look like that to me. And that's kind of where we get in this mode with people and their military and for all the things John Kennedy did wrong in his situation. I think that and in fact, some of the things I know behind the scenes that happened during the Cuban Missile Crisis, he had the common sense to override all of his advisors that said we got to go nuke Russia or Cuba, or let's stop this problem. And he figured out a way to do it, with discussion. And back in the mid '80s, I worked under Cheyenne Mountain in Colorado Springs as a defense contractor that was involved in communications. And you would be absolutely shocked at how often, every day, basically, there was an incident, or 7, multiple incidents, wherein there had to be a judgment call made whether a launch that was done in the Ural Mountains, let's say in Russia, was friend or foe. Was it a weather satellite going up, or was it practice they were doing about an attack on a given missile silo field in the United States or whatever, but the missiles were all targeted for something in Siberia? All of those things happened. We looked at these high arc launches that happened that would basically ultimately rain down on us, and we had to, well, I wasn't the guy doing I wasn't smart enough to do those evaluations, but I was around, and so I knew about these things. And anyway, even during that period of time, we had submarines that could do a low trajectory attack into a country. They would be offshore a little bit. I mean, you would be shocked at how often subs were off L.A. or Washington, D.C. or something like that. Minutes in those days, even without hypersonic missiles, a nuke could land in these high population densities. But they came in at a low arc. They didn't arc up into outer space and come back down on something, is what a lot of the big intercontinental ballistic missiles were designed to do. But these low arc
that's where
things,
under the radar comes to play. Right?
That's exactly what the concept was. And you would have been shocked, even in the mid-'80s, about how often some of these nuke submarines were off our shores. Well, what Trump has done is he has stationed at least a couple, I don't know how many, but that's what they talk about, in appropriate locations, which would cause these low-arc missiles could be launched into Russia. And it's over a deal where, Trump's been beating the war drums about these deadlines he's given Russia about Ukraine. This is a dog fight that we don't have a dog in. And literally and truthfully, they've made it ours. Trump has made Biden's fiasco his. And he's given
the Israel-Gaza thing is another question. If Israel goes ahead and takes Gaza City or whatever else, a lot of people around the world are saying, whoa, hey, wait a minute, now that's a provocateur type deal.
It's genocide, Sam. It's genocide.
It is, but you got to look at it and go, what is Trump going to do now?
And so here we have they're stationing these high value assets with multiple warheads, capable of almost instantaneous, just mere minutes of response. And here what did he put him in place for? Because a guy that's, down the chain of command from Putin somewhat. Who knows how much power he really has. But anyway, he said, hey, you guys you're being a little bit warlike. And Trump says, I'll show you turkeys warlike. And he puts nuke subs in there. And honestly, I think we're probably closer to a real problem that John Kennedy avoided back in 1962. I think we're closer now. And who's the one moving the chess pieces right now? And people are so excited about what Donald Trump's doing. Oh, but he's doing so many great things. He's hanging, I can't tell you how many prominent people in government positions I have been told have been hanged by the white hats or whoever they're talking about now at Gitmo. And I say, come on, people. If that stuff was going on, the Republic's already dead. We can't have military commissions doing these kinds of things and have the form of government the Founding Fathers gave us. I mean, I know I'm all over the board, but you need to understand, okay, going back to the 1980s, the mid-1980s, when I was under the mountain in Cheyenne Mountain Complex, there were very tense thought processes that went on. I'll call them that, regularly, daily. And what's happening right now, oh, by the way, what had to happen during those evaluations was you had to look at the general political demeanor that was going on. Who's offended whom? Are there things, hot spots going on? All of these things had to be evaluated, and you would be shocked at how brief a time you had to make those evaluations. Mere minutes had to transpire before this is not a threatening or an attack or anything like that. This launch is a weather satellite or a practice launch that they do. This kind of stuff happened daily. And what I'm saying is that because of the tensions that are in the world today, right now, even as we speak, and we've got a president moving nuclear assets into position, and they're there. I mean, it's and maybe there's more that have been positioned. I mean, we got the Indian Ocean, we got maybe South China Sea, maybe we've got these things just off of Russia. I mean, and these kinds of assets are they're quick strike kind of thing, and they're devastating. If somebody pushes the button, so to speak, and it's more than that, in spite of what the movies talk to you about. But if something like that happens, there's no ollie oxen free, call everybody home. This is stand down, everybody. These you cross the Rubicon, if you will. Going back to the old Roman analogy. Once you cross that, you can't go back across the river. And so people need to understand that because of a mean tweet. I guess I'd never sent a tweet in my life. I don't know what it really takes to send a tweet. But it's trolls shooting from the hip. It's buffoons that are snarky or whatever. I don't know. But because of that, Trump takes offense and starts putting the most powerful, by some accounts, the most powerful, deadly force on earth in motion. And you say, what is going on here? How can we do this? And as you point out, Sam, I mean, the Gaza Strip or, Lebanon or Syria or something in Iran or, Somalia, who knows where somebody's going to take offense. It's almost every president that gets in trouble, which is almost all of them, get in trouble during their second administration because of their international affairs.
And they almost have like a lame duck, I'm going to fix it status where it's like, their power's kind of waning in some ways, but at the same time they want to take it to the next level. And that's what kind of creates the problem, that dissonance there, right?
Absolutely. And you at the very beginning of our get-together, you brought up the Nixon resignation. That was small potatoes stuff in comparison. But like I say, they were hinge points in America, some of those things I mentioned, I know exactly where I was standing when I watched Nixon make this announcement. And everybody was sober-minded. They were standing there with their arms folded, listening. I mean, This is the kind of stuff, but it happens every day now. When I talk
back in the day with it, this is horrible but necessary, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Nixon was a bozo for doing what he did. But how many bozos have we got to suffer under? I mean, how many decades now has it been that we haven't had a bozo in a very high position? I mean, lots of bozos, guys. And it seems like what shall I say? We are led by the least capable individuals. I don't know.
Quick pause, ladies and gentlemen. I want to talk about the Federal Reserve a little bit because I think it plays into war directly, even though people don't realize. Hang tight, Liberty Roundtable Live.
Introducing Managed IT Services from NPI. We offer top-notch data backup and recovery, email spam protection, and network security tailored to your needs and budget. With 20-plus years of experience in the medical field, our HIPAA-certified consultants know what it takes to protect sensitive information. Don't settle for less. Give us a call at 801-706-6980 and experience the difference with Managed IT Services. Remember, your IT support should be fast, efficient, and reliable.
Introducing PrepStartsNow.com, your ultimate guide to readiness and peace of mind. We offer practical preparedness tools, training, and education to take your family's household readiness to the next level. Browse the prep shop for essential products, check out our planning guides, and stay informed with our prep blog. Visit PrepStartsNow.com and subscribe to our emails for exclusive offers, new products, and future events. Remember, preparedness begins with PrepStartsNow.com.
Regrets? Oh, we're all gonna have them. Doesn't matter who you are or what you do. At some point, you're gonna wish you'd done something differently. You know, the woulda, coulda, shouldas. But let me tell you a couple of things you'll never regret. You'll never regret spending extra time talking to your teenager. Trust me. You'll never regret answering your 3-year-old's question about where the water in the bathtub comes from. And I've never seen anyone wish they hadn't sat in the kitchen laughing with their children and telling them goofy stories about when they were kids. Yeah, sure, we're all gonna have regrets, but talking too much with our kids won't be one of them.
No matter what you talk about, love is what they'll hear. A thought from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Visit us at Mormon.org.
All right, we're on the brink of war, unfortunately. Pray it doesn't happen. Predict it possibly will in some fashion or another. There's just too many points that were brought to the brink, ladies and gentlemen. Nixon had to resign over scandals, but the scandals today are, man, every single day they're worse than what the child's play was back then. Nevertheless, they took it seriously then, and now we don't even seem to blink an eye. As Steve Bannon secretly planning a 2028 presidential run, saying he created J.D. Vance. Very strange indeed. Now, Trump has appointed Stephen Miran, currently the chair of the Council of Economic Advisors, to a temporary position on the Federal Reserve Board. Miran is set to replace Governor Adriana Cutler, who resigned and I guess she'll end Friday. The role is quite influential, they say. It'll basically help with the rate-setting committee. Trump has previously urged the committee to lower borrowing costs. If the Senate confirms Miran, he'll serve until January 31, 2026, while they seek for somebody to fill the position permanently. Trump praised Miran's economic expertise on Truth Social, saying, hey, this guy's awesome. And Miran is a Harvard-educated economist and official. He could be involved in the meeting on the 16th and 17th of September. And a very interesting twist on this, Dr. Bradley. To me, if you're going to lower interest rates, if you're not careful, instead of the Federal Reserve it needing to be shut down, it's going to take prime position. If we seem to have wars break out or, fund wars and promote wars and lie and claim we're never in wars, but we're always in wars and this kind of stuff. The Federal Reserve is what is enabling all that to occur. So I'm expecting the Federal Reserve to take more of a prominent role in the administration. What do you say?
There's so much to be said about the Federal Reserve. I don't know as anybody that anybody would be in a position of authority to appoint someone, would find anybody that was a friend of liberty. I mean, the Federal Reserve is a unconstitutional Marxist philosophy out of the Communist Manifesto kind of concept. It controls the U.S. economy. It's a private, for-profit banking consortium. It's never been examined to see how they're manipulating the economy and everything. You know, how the Rothschilds paid both sides of the war because they were making profits on whoever was at war, just as long as they ran the financial side of things. And you talk about the efforts that Trump is making to manipulate the interest rates. The Federal Reserve is going to do what the Federal Reserve does for the benefit of the Federal Reserve consortium. It's just a bad idea that's got on steroids over the years. 1913, bad decision. Go read Creature from Jekyll Island by G. Edward Griffin.
Yeah, and I wish we would recover from the decision, but it seems like we want to just basically play games around the edges. Like, oh, let's criticize the Fed. Let's get in a fight with Jerome Powell. Let's have this person resign. Let's put this new person on the council. But that doesn't matter a tinker's dang. That's irrelevant. The fact is the Federal Reserve is going to continue its absolute march towards the destruction of this country.
By the way, Sam, a tinker's dam is different than a tinker's dang. A tinker's dam was a patch put on a cooking pot or something like that by some itinerant skilled craftsman that came around to fix the leaking pots.
You'd have pans and you couldn't get new pots, but somebody could fix them for you, right?
They called it a tinker's dam. It's a dam. It's not a dam as you might be swearing, but it's a dam. And I used it all the time with my kids, by the way, because they always thought Dad was swearing when I said, you guys don't give a tinker's dam about this. They said, Dad's swearing. No, I wasn't. Yeah. They always failed. A tinker's dam always failed. They were a short-term fix that when you used the pot for a short period of time, they got the leak back again. I mean, that's the historical
and that's
genesis.
why I'm saying that it doesn't matter a tinker's dam. You've still got the same problem you've ever had before, right?
Right. It's going to fail. It's going to fail, kids.
And not only is it going to fail, but it's going to do a lot of damage along the way. So I don't really care, to be honest with you. Between you and me, I don't really care about this. You know, guy's got the role's influential. He's got to vote on the Fed's rate setting committee and stuff. Okay, that doesn't matter. Okay, he might help lower the interest rates. They may do that. But is it going to make matters better? Worse? Okay, so you look at honest money right now, and yesterday I was talking to Brian Rust. Gold is like $3,400. Yeah. Silver, literally $38 kind of range and stuff.
Yeah.
Folks, it's going south fast, and it's only going to get worse if we continue to push on tariffs and no tax relief. If we push on, the American people are paying the tariffs. They say they gave us a tax break, but I don't get it. You raise tariffs and lower some taxes a little bit, and at the end of the day, I probably pay more. But they're claiming I pay less, right?
Here's the deal, though, that you say, we're giving you a big tax break, however they spin it, But if on the expense side we don't do anything there, it just gets a bigger debt. And right now, the interest on our debt, just the interest, we take $1 trillion of the general government's revenue stream every year, over $1 trillion, and we give that to the guys we owe money to, and the Federal Reserve's part of that, and so is China, and so is old people that bought bonds. I mean, whatever, wherever we owe the money, it goes out the door.
Everybody's infected or affected, however you want to look at it, right?
20% of the U.S. revenue stream goes to interest every year, roughly. I mean, come on, people. Can't you see that this is a death? It's a death sentence.
When are we going to call a halt to the con game? Well, there is good news on the horizon that I want to finish the hour on. HHS Secretary RFK Jr. announced the cancellation of about $500 million in funding for 22 mRNA vaccine development projects targeting, quote, respiratory viruses like COVID and the flu. At least somebody's doing something, Doctor.
Well, I'm so thrilled when I read that story. I thought, woo, here we go. This is wonderful. But the fact is, on the other hand, we got the two hands we're dealing with here. On the other hand, there's still recommended additional COVID vaccine booster shots. I mean, come on. Does anybody connect the dots on anything?
Well, and at least though RFK's doing this though, so don't obliterate the good news on this point.
Right. No, I
100%. But we got to start somewhere, and we got to build support for RFK Jr. so that we can stop the extra COVID jabs. Right?
They're mRNA. They're still giving those turkeys. I see ads. Whether you're listening to the radio or you're driving down the street and you see the billboard, and it's like, are you kidding me? People haven't connected the dots on that too, but no, you're right. I shouldn't overshadow what
your point's right, and you've got a point to make, but you've got to take at least 3 breaths to give credit, because we've got to help people understand that credit is good, he deserves it, and it needs to build. Because then your next point is, hey, when are we going to be educated enough to stop the mRNA extra COVID vaccine stuff? Hopefully RFK Jr. is getting there. And we got to help him get there. And this is the start to that.
Yeah.
The question is, how much mojo will he get behind him? He can't do it all alone, people. Right? Anyway, President Trump ordering a new census to exclude those in the country illegally, Doctor.
Well, I think there's this constitutional thing about doing it every 10 years. When's he going to do this new census?
I guess it's the next one
now?
in 2030. I mean, I don't know.
Well, no,
I don't know. We don't have the details.
I mean, constitutionally, that you say you do it every 10 years. And
no, listen, the Donald's different than anybody else you've ever known. Instead of a news story with all the details, he just throws crap out and you have no idea, buddy. You got to dig and hunt and pray and ponder and, maybe, breach the White House to get the answers, because you can't know.
Oh, now, let me just, and there may be some stretch here we can do. It says, and within every subsequent term of 10 years, Okay, so if you're within,
I think do it early.
Somebody maybe, but that's I mean the word smithing that goes on, and maybe that could be construed to be that, and that we've only done it on 10-year terms before, but that doesn't, based on within the 10 years, subsequent 10 years, maybe he could do it, and I wonder how soon. And by the way, there's going to be a lot of blowback on that. There'll be a ton. The Congress is going to get involved, and they're going to want to count every possible way to stack the deck, like these gerrymandering things that are going on and everything. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
The question is, when will this happen? Right? No specific date has been provided by Trump. And normally it's for 2030, as you wisely point out. But here's the deal. Any deviation from that, they say, would require new legislation from Congress.
Well, as I say, Congress is going to have a hissy fit over
anything. But they're derelict in their duty. They literally left early to not vote on the Epstein files. In my personal opinion, that's kind of criminal to shut down that. They've been gone since, July 23rd. They won't come back till September the 2nd. They're on massive vacations. It's supposed to be a district work session, but they all went international and everything else. And you got Mike Johnson hanging out with, in my opinion, this is my opinion to which I'm entitled. You've got Benjamin Netanyahu, that's a war criminal. Anyway, Mike went to go hang out with him instead of going back to his district. And, you got this scenario where I don't think Congress is going to back anything.
In 3 days,
the hurdles are substantial, they say.
And Ghislaine's deposition is supposed to be taken in 3 days while they're on recess. I mean, 3 days from now, we're supposed to get the inside scoop, kids.
Not going to happen. All you're going to have is more convoluted whatever. Anyway, there you go. I just thought I'd bring all that to your attention. Next hour, I want to talk about the FBI. Yeah, and this deal in Texas, because it's almost the same. We'll talk about that with Dr. Scott Bradley. You're listening to hitting news that the networks refuse to use at lovingliberty.net. Spread the word.